Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here today. I'm, of course, Gregor Guy.
My name's Casey.
And for your viewing pleasure, educational purposes, we are going to be presenting episode 35, or 36, I'm sorry. I misspoke there, of the Bankcast. So, what are we going to talk about here this week?
You said something about China and
mainly what I want to talk about this week is particularly Russia. Okay, now obviously everyone hears a lot of stuff, everything. Now, obviously Russia went to war with Ukraine back in February. Mm-hmm. And here we are sitting in August, which, I mean, what's that, like 7 months later, 6 months later? Something like that? Half a year?
I mean,
how is Russia, this is my question, how is Russia not embarrassed with themselves?
Because they're not at war with Ukraine. They're at war with the United States and the European Union.
Nah, I mean, that's a bold statement.
That's not a bold statement, that's a fact.
Well, I mean, obviously, that they are supporting the Ukrainians and everything in their own way.
Right.
So would that not like technically be a proxy war?
It is, yes. If the United States and the European countries went in to Ukraine to fight Russia, that would escalate into a world war.
And do you?
I mean, that's just short and simple. How about Afghanistan was a proxy war for both sides?
Well, I mean, it realistically kind of.
You got
no, I wouldn't say Afghanistan, because, like I said, there was a clear defined mission in Afghanistan for the American people. Find Osama bin Laden.
Well, the U.S. just decided to do whatever the fuck they wanted after that.
Well, after they realized he wasn't in Afghanistan, right. That's a different story.
Right.
Got to make something out of fucking this goddamn clusterfuck. Basically, is what happened.
But just everybody's fighting on their own interests. But if Russia is not just if Russia was just fighting Ukraine as it was, then Ukraine would have already been gone by now.
Yeah. Agreed. But, you know, at the same point in time, they didn't really realistically receive any support, we'll say, from Western countries.
They 100% did. All the weapons.
Until a couple months after the invasion began. They were able to withstand for those couple months. And then they, got...
They've been building up for years.
What they got.
They've been building up the arms for Ukraine.
Right. But at the same point in time, Russia is the 8th largest military superpower in the world.
Nationalism.
8th. Couldn't take over, I don't know what Ukraine was, but I assume that it was probably a lot lower on the list.
Nationalism is an incredible weapon. If your people feel like they're separated from the invading forces, then they're going to fight tooth and nail for every little square inch. Now, Russian soldiers going and fighting on unfamiliar land, they're not fighting for their existence. They're not fighting as hard and as powerful as they possibly could be. It's kind of like the art of war. If you've ever heard that, you purposely
is that Shinzu, yeah. Or
something like
Sun Tzu?
Sun Tzu. You purposely put your soldiers in a place where they cannot retreat, in order to make them fight harder, because they know there's no way of surviving the other way or being able to retreat.
But I mean, they obviously can retreat back across the border to Russia. Those two countries are touching.
But they're not. Russia's not fighting for their home. The Ukrainians are.
Right. I mean, I understand that concept, but I mean, what I'm saying is the Russian soldiers, I believe what you said, can retreat.
They could if they wanted to. but they're not going to, because they'll probably get killed for I can't remember what the exact word is.
Deserting.
Yeah, desertion.
Desertion. Yes. All right. Well, I mean, that's one aspect. I mean, you hear some crazy stories.
I got one quick thing.
Okay.
So, say Texas declares independence from the United States of America.
Okay.
And the United States of America says no. Okay. And they go in full force into Texas to try to take it back.
Well,
how difficult do you think that would be?
First of all, it would be illegal for the United States government to do that. You know why? Because if they still consider Texas part of the United States of America, it is illegal to deploy American troops on United States soil. You have to use the National Guard for that. Well, do you think the Texas National Guard is going to retake Texas for the United States?
We're saying I don't care about any of that. I'm talking about...
No, these are laws. No, these are important laws, too. I mean, you got to understand this.
You have to understand what I'm trying to say.
Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Just forget about any kind of possible law. I'm talking about the people in Texas versus a federal government army going into Texas and trying to take it back. How difficult do you think it would be to take Texas back from Texans?
I would say virtually impossible.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I understand that concept, but at the same point in time, the federal government will have just made themselves criminals if they made that order.
First of all, if it ever came to that point, I don't think they would care.
Well, I mean, are you sure?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Really?
I don't know if you see how things have been evolving in our federal government.
I'm fairly aware.
So if it ever depreciated to the point where states start breaking away from the union, I don't think there's any rules or laws that are going to stop. They're just going to change the rule or law just to make it more palatable.
But I mean, that's still not going to change the Constitution. They would need, like I said, as I have stated before,
they're pissing all over the Constitution right now.
Yeah, I can't remember which one is which. 66% of Congress and 75% of the states. Now, those could be reversed. I'm not sure which is which in order to ratify the Constitution. But it is in the Constitution that you cannot deploy soldiers on American soil for combat operations.
All right. Florida, Texas... Okay, we'll say almost all of the southern red states, they decide to break away. So how many votes do they now have in the Congress? I mean, this is completely out of what I was talking about in the first place. This is
obviously a hypothetical.
Right. So this is basically completely out of what I meant in the first place. Now we're talking about hypothetical situation within law, which was not my intent in the first place. My intent was taking a place, a people's home from them, and using superior firepower.
I'm still waiting for the question.
The question is, how many votes do they actually have if they all break away from the union in the first place? They don't have a vote. So now all the votes are in the northern states and the blue states. And they can make their own laws at that point.
I mean, it would muddy the waters a bit.
And they can just completely deteriorate the Constitution, and it means nothing anymore.
Let's not give them ideas.
Well, I'm
going to have to shut up here, because I think, we might have just given them an idea.
But my basic point,
I see what you're saying now.
Yeah,
I will say that I see what you're saying.
My basic point is how difficult it would be for a superior firepower, like we're just talking about people in Texas versus the federal government trying to take it back. It would be virtually impossible because the Texans are not going to give up their land.
No, definitely not. It's going to be
that's almost almost exactly like Ukraine versus Russia.
Okay, so you're making that comparison.
Right.
I never really thought about it like that, but okay. Yeah, I see similarities.
Right.
We will say.